our session on networking. Very excited that you've joined us today. This is the first part of a much larger event. So what I would like to do at this moment is throw the baton to my colleague Adrian to tell you a little bit more about the Summer Job Blitz. Adrian.
Thank you, Jen. Sorry, I had to find my mic there. So yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody. And just a really quick note about our Summer Job Blitz. It has kind of three different components. One is we have two networking nights taking place Wednesday and Thursday at 5 o'clock. Business and Technology Wednesday, and then Art, Science, Government, Camps, and Nonprofit on Thursday. Both of those are opportunities to connect, network, and meet with reps from employers hiring for the summer. So that's probably why some of you are here, to learn to network and get comfortable with networking. The second component of the Summer Job Blitz is our virtual recruitment hall, which is hosted on our Acadia platform. And I see that they've shared the screen here, what that looks like. We'll pop that link into the chat box so you can take a look at that. That opened up today, and that'll be open until February the 27th. And that's a place you can also go to learn more about opportunities for the summer from these employers. And over the next few weeks, when you go and look at the virtual hall, some of the employers in there will have additional opportunities to connect with them via additional drop-in sessions or Google Meets, etc. So make sure you check that out. Everything you need to know about Summer Job Blitz will be on that platform, including the additional times and virtual booths. We call them tiles in Acadia. They're like virtual booths. And when you click on either the big purple link there for the virtual recruitment hall, you'll see that there's additional information, and some of them like Katimavik or the government or some of the other ones there will have additional times you can connect with them after the networking event, whether you're taking part or not. And then on the Acadia page, you'll also find information about the Summer Job Blitz as a whole. There's some giveaways and prizes, additional workshops. So that's kind of prong number 2 of our approach. And number 3 are the workshops, and you're at one right now. Thank you for joining. And there's a summer job workshop also next Tuesday about how else to find summer jobs for summer 2022. At that point, I'm going to pass it back to Jen.
Thanks so much, Adrian. So I would like to make sure everyone is aware that we are recording the workshop today. And so if the fact that we are recording would change, whether you choose to put your hand up when we ask for contributions, or maybe you might choose to put things in the chat box, we just wanted to make sure that you are aware that we are recording the session. So if that makes you uncomfortable in any way, please feel free to head on out and ask us for the recording later. That is also okay. But of course, would love as many of you as possible to stay to enjoy the session. So very quick introductions. I'm Jen Davies. I'm the Manager of Career Development Services here at the Academic Advising and Career Center. And I'm presenting today with my colleague, Shona. Shona, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Shona Crawford. I'm the Resource Center Coordinator, also with the Academic Advising and Career Center.
Awesome. And today we're going to be talking about networking and including some advice for folks who might identify as a little bit more introverted. There is still a networking opportunity for you. But before we get any further, I would like to share the University of Toronto Scarborough's land acknowledgement to remind us all of where we are.
We wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates.
For thousands of years,
it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat,
the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit.
Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island.
And we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land.
Great. So here's what we're going to do in this session. We are going to spend a little less than an hour talking about why to network and how to network very briefly. Then we're going to create some space for you to be developing your own plan and strategy for creating opportunities for informational interviewing, and we'll explain what that is. Then we're going to talk about setting up your space for success. You'll actually get to see my home office here a little bit as a bit of a demo. And then we're going to talk about effective participation in networking events. In other words, how to make the best possible impression and how you can follow up after these meetings are finished. So let me get my thing to go on. I'll pass the baton to Shona to talk a little bit about our first activity.
Fantastic. All right. So you're all here. You all want to work on your networking skills. So let's jump right in. First activity we're going to do is a networking activity. Don't be frightened. Super simple. So we're going to break you out into small groups. Jen is going to work in the background and you'll get shot into a group. What we'd like you to do in those groups, it'll be about 3 to 4 people. And in your group, we'd like you to find something that you have in common with each person in your room. That doesn't mean that all of you have to have the same thing in common, though you might, but we want you to start making those connections. It can be anything. All right, use your imagination. We're going to give you 5 minutes to do this, and we're going to bring you back. Then we're going to chat a little bit about how that went and how this is a form of networking. All right, so Jen, if you want to shoot people into their rooms, that'd be awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, so please choose to join the room that you've been invited to, and we'll give you a 1-minute warning before we close them. Go on ahead over there. We can pause the recording for a minute so that we don't have to 5 minutes of silence.
Sign.
Cool. Always good to meet people.
Right.
Thanks for going to a room.
Is everybody back?
I think, there we go. Yes, I think there were a few more. Here we all are. Fantastic. All right.
Awesome.
So, Sarah or Adrian, if I could trouble you to restart the recording. Oh, looks like it might have restarted already. So folks, just in case you came late, I want to make sure that you are aware we are recording today. And I want to let you know that just in case it affects your choice of behavior, okay? So Shona, please carry on our activity.
Excellent. Thanks, Jen. So a couple people found that fun. That's awesome. We love to hear that. And that's the thing. Networking can be fun. And guess what? You all just networked. Well done. So what I'd love to know is, oh, you learned a lot about your group. Thank you for sharing, Gabriella. So what I want to know from people is, so you had fun, you learned some stuff. If you want to go in the chat, if you want to raise your hand and unmute, what kind of things did you find you had in common with the people in your room? Anyone want to share?
I'm watching for hands. All right.
We have 2 hands.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
Gabriella, I saw your hand first.
You want to unmute and share?
Oh yeah. So I learned that, for example, a lot of the 2 other people in my group were studying something kind of similar to me, like kind of along a very similar path. One was doing psychology. I had done psychology. Another one was doing sociology, which is kind of related. And yeah, that was pretty interesting to find out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. And who's next up?
Bad. Ewan? You want?
It's Yayan.
Yayan. Okay, cool.
So in contrast to Gabriella's group, our group was very, very spread out in majors. We had very, very distinctly different ones. However, we did find that everybody in the group had a common interest in reading to some extent, whether that was stuff online or whether it was novels.
Excellent, excellent. And then who else do we have there?
Ariaki?
Yeah. Hi. So we spoke about how it turned out that all of us were in a co-op program, and 2 of us were from one field and the other 2 were from the other field. So that worked out well. And we also spoke about how most of us liked to go on roller coasters. So yeah, that was fun.
That is cool. That is cool. Thank you so much for sharing. We have a couple shares in the chat. Shri shared that they both wanted to pursue a career in corporate law, and they're both Marvel fans. I love it. I love that the conversation went beyond school stuff. That's amazing. Let's see. And I know there was another one in here. Oh, and Gabriella said, and they all love dogs. Fantastic. A lot of people have adopted dogs over COVID. Is there anyone else who would like to share something that they found out about their group?
Or does anyone have any thoughts on our next question? Is there anything that made it easier to talk or harder to talk that you noticed or that you can think about now that you're thinking about it?
Annika?
Hi. So yeah, I think that because we knew that the end goal of our conversation, although it was just going to be for a few minutes, like having the idea that, oh, our end goal is to find something in common, I feel like that made it really easy. So we kind of talked about something that we already knew we had in common for school, you know, just by virtue of being on this call, and then going into like fun, like off topic kind of more like chill subjects. So yeah, I think it made it really easy.
Excellent. Stephanie?
I found that once the conversation got started, it was a little easier to carry it on because I guess people would also, I guess, contribute. So it would be easier to keep that conversation going.
Okay. So these are great points. Anyone else want to share something that they found it easier, or did anyone find it harder? That's okay too. Okay, so here's the next question. What is
very quickly though,
oh, sorry.
Ian, I hope I got that right.
Oh, sorry.
Most of that group had read the same book, which is very cool.
There you go.
I'm curious how you got there though. I don't know if you're open to sharing. How did you get to books? That doesn't seem like a natural one. Can you remember how it got there?
Yeah, for sure. So one of our group members basically had mentioned that she had liked reading a particular book online. And then I just remember the name. I was like, oh, like, have you read of this one before? And then another person was like, oh, I've read that one. And then she was like, oh, I read that one. And then we all just happened to be like, oh, nice, we all read it. So that was how it came about.
That is very cool. Maybe there's a future book club in the making there with your group. You never know. That's yet another way to make connections. It's amazing. So what I wanted to talk about now is, what is the real world connection here? So this was a little simulation exercise, but what is the real world connection? So what you may or may not have realized, the real world connection is that you can always find something in common with other people that you're talking to. So it can be something as simple as you all like dogs, which is great. Or that you're all avid readers. And then look at that. It just naturally flowed into a development that you found out you'd all read the same book. And it sounds like you have, yes, exactly. Common interests make for good conversations. Absolutely. So this is the kind of tool that you can use when you're networking. Again, it helps take the scariness out and it can get a conversation going. So let's look at this a little bit more. Jen, I'm going to throw it over to you now.
Thank you. So I am sure that folks here have thoughts and feelings about networking. Feel free in the chat box to throw any thoughts or feelings you have. I'm going to put one out there, which I often have, which is nervous. Now, nervous can often be perceived as positive. Nervous because I'm excited about what new people I might meet or what things we might talk about. Shown as sharing intimidating, right? Sometimes we're nervous because we're it's a negative, you know, we're a little scared about it. Absolutely, we've got nerve-wracking because I'm kind of an introverted person. So, you know, meeting new people is not my forte, can feel awkward. We have someone saying, yes, absolutely introverted. It's Someone says exciting. Awesome. Yeah, me too. Actually, I'm extroverted, so I find networking exciting, but I totally can understand how it can be perceived as all those things, intimidating, scary, and so on. So feel free to continue throwing some things out there. I'm going to give us a definition, and I hope that by the end of our next, half hour or so, you will have bought into my definition, which is networking is the process of building relationships for mutual support, which I think is why Shona's putting forward to Ian and his group that maybe there's a book club in the making there. Who knows? But process of building relationships for mutual support. And the reason I'd like us to operate with that definition is that my experience now after 42 years, yes, I'm 42, my experience after 42 years on this world is that it's small. It feels really big sometimes, but in my experience, the reality is that it's actually pretty small. And so the people that you're meeting are actually likely to be your future coworkers, or they're people you're going to run into at conferences. These are people that you're going to see more than once, you're obviously going to meet more people than you're going to develop relationships with. Not everybody you talk to is going to become, your new best friend or your new work friend. But certainly you don't need to know everyone, but it is helpful to know some people in whatever field you pursue. In addition, it's not just about who you know. You may have heard this expression. It's all about who you know. It's not just about who you know. It's also about who knows you, and what is the reputation, that people have, or what is the reputation that you have out there, right? What is it that people think about you and feel about you, and you can shape that to a great extent by the networking that you do. So why build a network? Because for some of us we enjoy it. Others of us, it seems like a little bit of a chore. It's a little bit scary, not something I look forward to. Well, I will share. As I said, I'm the manager of the career development services for UTSC, and other managers that I've spoken to, we have this bad habit that we prefer to hire people we know, or hire the people that the people we know. We like to hire people who are known, if we can keep using that word a little bit redundantly. So a lot of roles, like some research suggests up to 80% of jobs are not broadly advertised, and they mostly get filled by word of mouth. Or even if they are advertised, they still get filled by somebody who is sort of known by, the team of people who are filling them. So the best way to hear about them then is to have a network of people who can tell you about these things that are happening, about these unadvertised or poorly advertised jobs. So I'd like to pass it back to Shona now to talk a little bit about making a list. And there's a handout on the Acadiate page. So maybe if I could trouble Adrian or Sarah, if you have it handy to throw the Acadiate page link, folks who might not have downloaded the handout may want to do that.
Okay, so while you're downloading it, it's actually 2 simple questions, but what we're going to do, or what you guys are going to do, is to start making a list. And a great place to start is with people you know. Generally, people have friends and family. Your friends have family and parents and friends. Your family has friends, coworkers, et cetera, et cetera. So it turns in, it's like a snowball. And if you're in the Toronto area, in Ontario right now, you're very familiar with snowballs, but that's what your networking is. You often start small with a few people and you just keep building on it. And you never know how people are connected. As Jen said earlier, the world is a small place. So you never know who knows who. And it's incredible how quickly your network can grow. So what I would like everybody to do, Jen, if you can flip to the next slide for me, is we're going to start, and everybody, I'm going to give you a few minutes to do this on your own. I'd like you to write a list of 5 people that you know right now who have jobs, who are working. Doesn't matter what they're working in, but that have a job and are working. Okay, so just make a list of 5 people. If you can make a list of more than 5, keep going. Don't stop yourself. But I want you to start with 5, okay? And then we'll take it to the next question. But I just want to give you a few minutes to jot down those names. Okay.
No pressure.
No, yeah.
With those 5 names, please just let us know in the chat.
And we're not checking. So it's completely your information. Thank you, Nicole.
So how about when we have 5 people who said they've got their 5, we'll go on to the next step. Sound like a plan?
Perfect. That sounds like a great plan. Thank you. Okay. Oh, they're firing in and we're good. Awesome. Thank you so much. This is an ongoing activity. We'd like to think of it as just the teeny tiny snowball that you're going to build on. Okay, so now you're going to, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. What I want you to do is to then take this information, and if you can put in the chat, and take a look at the type of people, I guess, what relationship they are to you who are in your list of 5. So maybe they're an aunt, a best friend's mom, a neighbor. Just add, oh, there we go. Thank you, Jen. And just add to the chat who you've thought of and what relationship they are to you. Okay. Oh, dentist mom, cool. Okay. Mostly cousins, fantastic. Family, friends, excellent. Oh, awesome. Aunts and uncles, fantastic. Roommates, excellent, yeah. Child caseworker friend, wonderful. That's some great connections here. Oh.
I'd really like to highlight cousins, because unless you're lucky enough that you, well, maybe not lucky, if you like them and you see them regularly, sometimes you see people and you don't like them. But if these are people that you see regularly and you do like them, cousins are wonderful sources of information, and they often circulate in slightly different circles from ours because, of course, they're coming from a slightly different family dynamic, right? Because they typically will live in a different household.
So Nicole's well set up, 20 cousins, it's amazing. she's already building her network. Okay, sisters, some current coworkers. So we've got a real variety here. So from parents, a former TA, professor, that's great. We've got friends, roommates, aunts, uncles, family members, friends. So a real variety. Okay, so now you've started to build the network. So we're putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. We started to practice actual networking. We've started to develop who we might want to network with. So now the next step, and this is something that you will do on your own time, is you've got these great connections. Now what you want to look at is, what are you going to do with them? So you can think of this as a worksheet. And as we go through the presentation, we're going to give you some tools and ideas of what you can do with these people that you've thought of with whom you may want to network. Okay, so hold on to that list. All right, and I'm going to send it back to you, Jen, for the next piece.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about how to add some more people to that list. And one of the ways to do that is by finding experiences. So certainly, of course, one thing that you can do by participating in the Summer Job Blitz, and of course through other mechanisms as well, be to seek out internships and training programs in your field. Work-study jobs are a great way to get to know people on campus. Hospitals, banks, all kinds of big organizations will offer internships and training programs as summer opportunities. If you're in co-op, obviously co-op opportunities, but there are internships that you don't have to be in co-op for, available in lots of interesting organizations. You can find them in clnx.utoronto.ca. Maybe someone could throw that in the chat box for me, clnx.utoronto.ca. And of course, you can go out and find them on your own by exploring organizations that you're kind of curious about working for. There's also strategic volunteering. And I use strategic, the word strategic for a specific reason, because you can volunteer just out of the goodness of your heart. So for example, I'm a cat person. I have fostered cats, but it's very cat focused and I don't really get to meet people. So I volunteer, but it's not really strategic volunteering. Whereas if I wanted to do some strategic volunteering around animals, I might actually find the opportunity to actually be in person when it's safe to do so, you know, at Toronto Animal Services or at a cat rescue that has a physical presence, you know, so I actually get to talk to some humans in addition to the felines. So finding strategic volunteering opportunities helps you build a network because you can talk to people with similar interests and ask them questions. And we'll share a little bit more about what kinds of questions or what opportunities you might create with those people as we talk about informational interviews. We'll get to that in just one second. Another great way to integrate yourself very professionally, you know, into your field of work or whatever industry it is that you're kind of curious about, is by helping at professional development opportunities or conferences. Of course, in any field of study, there's usually a professional association. My background is psychology, so I'm very involved in the Canadian Counseling and Psychotherapy Association. And they have all kinds of professional development conferences throughout the year. And I have been a helper or volunteer at a lot of their events. And there are a number of advantages to being a helper or volunteer at a professional development event or a conference. One, you have every reason to talk to people. This is for you introverts. You have every reason to talk to people because you're there to help. If you're a conference volunteer, you have a badge that makes you official and everything. Often you're assigned to a space, you know, say, okay, you're going to go help out this speaker. So you really do have to talk to them because you're their helper. If they need something, you're going to go get it for them. Two, you automatically know someone who's going to introduce you around, and that's the volunteer coordinator. So someone else is actually going to take away some of the trouble for introducing you to people because they have to, because you're there to help, right? And they're there to help you to help. And third, you usually get into the event for cheap or even free, which when I was a student, I don't know if that matters to you, but when I was a student, certainly if I could get into something or cheaper for cheap or free, I was interested. So highly encourage looking for opportunities with professional associations in the industries that you're considering. Also, you can create opportunities for yourself. And I'm going to pass the baton to Shona to tell you a little bit more about how you would create an opportunity just privately for yourself to talk with someone.
So thanks, Jen. So we've already made reference to information or informational interviews, and it is a great way to pick the brain or to learn a bit more about someone who works in an industry or a particular job that is of interest to you. Now, I am completely understanding in that in the current environment, we're now working in a far more challenging, it's a lot more challenging. You don't have the organic opportunities that you would have if you were, say, on campus, and you can connect with people maybe in a line, in Tim Hortons. Never underestimate Tim Hortons lineup. Lots of conversations there, or maybe you get to go to an in-person event and there's a natural conversation there, or even your classes are in the hallway. So creating these informational interview opportunities is even more important. So there's a great guide from the University of California, Berkeley that we've included the link to here, and it talks about how to set up an information interview. But what we wanted to talk to was the reasons why. Why do these? They do take, especially if you're an introvert, these do take a lot of energy. I'm like Jen, I'm extroverted, but I have spoken with many people who do them, and it does take a lot, but it is worth it. And why do you want to do them? It helps you build your network of contacts. So we've already started with the list of people you know. Maybe they can refer, maybe they don't work in the field you're interested in, but their friend does. They can make an introduction, and from there, you never know where that could lead. So it's all about each person you have a conversation with, each person you connect with, it just increases the network, and a network can never be too big. It also helps you develop knowledge of the industry jargon, trends, and opportunities. So in having that great one-on-one time, you can learn about some inside information. And I'm not saying like insider trading, but things that you may not know about if you just went on the website. So you get the real world view of these kind of jobs or industries. And as I said before, you get a reality check. So I have personally had it where I've done an informational interview in an area that I was sure that I was interested in. And after speaking with the person, I went, whoa, is that what's really involved in doing the job? So it's a great opportunity to weed out areas that maybe aren't as helpful. And as Jen just put in the chat, which is great, yes, knowing the jargon can be really instrumental in helping to make your resume, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile even better, because you're connecting with them and showing that you've done your research, that you've learned about their industry and what they do. So I do recommend checking out that link on career at Berkeley. They have some great tips on how to do this. Next slide, Jen. Jen is my Vanna. So as we say, we want to give you tips for those that maybe find it challenging to reach out to people they don't know well. We have some tools. There's the newly developed UTSC Connect. Jen, you were going to put up on the screen for us, which is a way to connect with UTSC grads, including different, I think you can even search it up by, again, this is all under development, but you can start to get to know other grads and what they're doing, and make some connections that way. Often that can be more comfortable. The other thing we would encourage you to do is to check out the alumni, get connected with the alumni page and look at their events. They have all kinds of events happening that'll give you the opportunity to connect with fellow, not just UTSC grads, but it could be U of T in general. And they have some really neat events that they run. And Jen, you were also, sorry, I realized this was your page. So Jen also has some more information on this.
Thank you. No, I think this was your slide. We're good. So I also wanted to put in a pitch for continuing to stay engaged with the Academic Advising and Career Center. Some of you may be following us on social media. We have all the different, Facebook for your parents, Instagram for you, and you'll find advertisements for most of our big events coming out through those media outlets. Even after you have graduated, you will still actually have access to clnx.utoronto.ca as well, so you can register for our ongoing networking events. So yes, even after you have graduated, you still have access to the Academic Advising and Career Center's career services. So please do keep in touch with us, because there are definitely still opportunities to connect with interested employers after you've graduated. All right, so I'd like to carry on and share about using LinkedIn to find U of T and UTSC alumni colleagues. I think I'm stealing this slide from Sean over training. LinkedIn is a fabulous tool in case you're not familiar with it. Actually, I've just loaded up my LinkedIn here. So LinkedIn is a social media platform. I'm going to say it's kind of the professional Facebook is how I hear most people talk about it. And it's a really helpful platform, one, for keeping track of your professional social network, and two, for actually meeting new people. We have given you a really great video, which I even learned a few tips from actually here. And so I do encourage you, I've posted the link in the chat box. I do encourage you to download our slides for today so that you have access to these links. Shall I continue, Shona?
Sorry, just missed that. Okay. Oh, we're missing some information on our slide here. That's okay. There it is. All right. So we're going to do another little exercise, and we're going to be looking at reaching out, an example of how you would contact people. So one way that you can reach out to people, you can message in LinkedIn, and there are other forms, but one way is you can send an email. So things to think about when you are looking to ask somebody about volunteering or doing an informational interview or connecting with them in some way. Make sure you introduce yourself, who you are, so that especially if there hasn't already been a warm introduction from somebody else, you want to help them understand. It's like, why did they want to connect with me? And that leads to the second point of how you got their contact info. I'm sure we've all had occasions where somebody reaches out to you. It's like, how did you find me and why do you want to? And that leads to the third point with what's your goal? What do you want to know? How can they help you? It really helps them too in knowing the best way to connect with you and what they might want to cover. If you're doing an informational interview, it helps them prepare a little bit. So what we want to look at in the slides, we have 2 emails. And what we want to know is, and if you want to just put it in the chat, or if people want to raise their hands and reply, which of the 2 emails would you respond to? But more importantly, why? Okay, Jen, can you put up the 2 emails? We'll give everybody a chance.
Here's the first one in case you don't have the handout handy. May I narrate it for you, Shona?
Oh, sorry, I can do that, or yeah.
If you'd like to, you go right ahead.
So in the first one, sample email number 1, to whom it may concern. I recently graduated from U of T with a degree in management, and I'm interested in learning more about the field of human resources. I know that your company has an excellent reputation in the business world, so I'm writing to see if there is someone there who might be able to meet with me briefly to answer some of my questions. You can reach me at 416-983-8384. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, Sydney Smith. Okay, that's the first one. And second, example email number 2. Dear Mr. Hillview, I'm a 4th-year University of Toronto management student, and I'm interested in pursuing a career in human resources. As a part of my research process, I'm hoping to speak with individuals currently working in the field to find out what it would be like to work in this area. I came across your name while I was doing some research in the university's Career Center, and I was hoping to speak with you briefly about your extensive experience in the human resources field. I understand that you're busy, and I appreciate any help that you may be able to offer. I will call you within a week to find out if there's a convenient time for you to meet with me. I look forward to meeting with you then. Sincerely, Sally Smith. So those are the 2 options. Would anybody like to join in the chat or raise your hand and say which of these two, if you were receiving these emails, which one would you respond to? And more importantly, why?
We have a very clear consensus in the chat, Shona, about which one.
Oh, yes.
But,
excellent.
But Deanna would like to tell us, I hope I said that right, would like to tell us why, I hope.
Yes, you did say it right. Thank you. So along with everyone else, I would say the second one. It's more detailed, a bit more personable, and it also has like follow-up steps, which I think would be more likely to get a response.
Excellent, excellent. And in the chat, oh, yep, second one. Shri said, second one is stronger as it's more detailed and more personalized. That is a common theme, the personalized. I really like that. Gabriella had a good point, says, well, applying for jobs, I get a lot of spam and scammy looking emails, and the second one being more personalized makes me feel like it's more legitimate, which is great. Dura said that uses his name and knows about him. I like Stephanie's comment. She genuinely sounds more interested. Oh, Adrian weighed in, which is great. Thank you, Adrian. Adrian probably gets a lot of these. He says, I agree 100% to include a brief note when you send out LinkedIn connection requests. I get several LinkedIn requests every day, and most of them don't even have a personal message. The ones that do really stand out in a good way, especially well-written ones. So that's really good feedback from somebody who does get these regularly.
Absolutely. And if I could throw in there, I really strongly encourage this video because the creator actually highlights how the app, the LinkedIn app on your phone makes your life harder. It's very difficult actually to do the personalized message using the app. So believe it or not, I highly recommend going old school with and doing it on a PC, whether it's an Apple PC or a Windows PC, if you have access to one, because it's a lot easier to do the personalization.
Excellent, great feedback, and that is a good point. I will say some people do have, they only allow private messaging, and you have to have LinkedIn Premium for that. So there are sometimes cases where you can't, but other things you can do is you can reply to or make comments or like posts that the person makes that you're trying to connect with. And so then you become a bit of a known entity to them. So that can be a little bit of a way around it.
Totally. And how do you do that? How do you become a face? Certainly on LinkedIn, but you can use the social media that you are most comfortable with to become just familiar, you know, to have your name circulating in the kinds of online circles, you know, in your field. LinkedIn groups are great for that, you know, and again on Instagram, even if you can't communicate directly, you can always see, you know, who's following somebody, right? So to have your name sort of on a list of relevant followers isn't a bad thing. The other thing that I would like to highly recommend is that you do a bit of a social media audit on particularly what has your real name on it. Professionalism is the key word. I will say that my Facebook is a lost cause. I started using Facebook before I realized how much of it could accidentally end up being public. And so my Facebook actually doesn't even have my real name on it because it's just no good. It's been wrecked. So it was unsavable. But you may be able to save your social media if you do have your name attached to it. There are lots of great advice givers and creators on YouTube actually that have advice on how to tidy up your social media. So highly recommend that you do that for yourself and make sure that you're looking good when you're being present online. So I'd like to spend just a couple of minutes talking about setting up your technology for success. A couple of things that you might even have done for today, or I definitely recommend that you do before participating in our networking events for the Summer Job Blitz. First of all is to update your software, especially your Zoom. Zoom is one of the #1 pieces of software that folks are using to connect online these days. And Zoom actually now has They have an automated update feature. Highly encourage you to update your Zoom and allow it to do the automatic updates. That is going to make your life so much easier. I think it was the only piece of software on my whole computer that wasn't updating itself. I'd also like to encourage you to really think about your background. Notice I'm hiding my background right now, but I'll give you some examples. This is a good one. One I probably wouldn't use, you know, like LinkedIn gives you some defaults. Unless you're actually in San Francisco, I would encourage you not to actually use the background of San Francisco, unless you're interviewing. I mean, if you're interviewing in Silicon Valley, you know, that would actually probably be appropriate. Using your real background. This is my home office. Hello, welcome to it. It's not bad. I've got a cat perch here that if I were actually, you know, doing some formal networking, I would probably want to just roll it out of the way because hopefully, you know, I shouldn't be having a cat in my background, but otherwise it's chill, right? There's not much happening back there. So it's not bad. I wish I was here, you know, especially on today's snowy day. But again, especially with the movement, I would discourage, you know, using one of these for anything that's formal. It's a little bit distracting. So I'll come back to this thing. All right, so keep your background tidy or use a nice tidy background. Shona is also blurring right now, and that's a handy one as well. But you still don't want people walking around back there. So make sure that if you're gonna blur, just make sure you tell people, please don't wander around behind me because the motion will still be visible and distracting. Wi-Fi, I actually highly recommend that you reboot your modem at bedtime because you may know your modem has a cache or a memory built into it. And so let's clear that out so that it's a fresh start. I say at bedtime because obviously if you're sleeping, you don't need your Wi-Fi, you know, so it's an easy time to do it. Nobody's being disrupted. It's a good time. And again, negotiate with the other people around you, not just for quiet, but also for Wi-Fi. You know, if everybody else is watching Netflix when you're trying to network with somebody on Zoom, your Wi-Fi is really going to drag. So, you know, if you could just ask folks to please give me half an hour before you start your show, you know, and then that will make your life a whole lot easier. Finally, making a good impression. Dress appropriately, including bottoms, just in case you accidentally get up, you know, if you're wearing, you know, like polka dots or something on the bottom, it might ruin, you know, the snazzy impression that you were trying to make. So do make sure that, you know, whatever you're wearing, you know, from belly button down is still appropriate if you forget, you know, and stand up. Smiling makes a difference for everybody. Try to position your camera for eye contact. I've been working on this. I've actually been sliding my web camera more and more to the right because that's where I see myself. Someone's sharing, yes, the bottoms thing happened to somebody. Yeah, it's real. It's a real struggle. But anyway, try to position your camera as much as possible for eye contact so that it simulates the idea that there's eye contact happening, even though, of course, you know, there are no actual eyes to be connecting with. Don't do what I'm doing. I'm just conscious of time, so I'm going a little bit fast, but I do encourage you to slow down and enunciate as much as you can and leave empty space because remember, I'm talking, but it's taking a fraction of a second for the message to get to you. So everything's slightly off. So be patient, give the signal time to get to the person, let them formulate what they want to send back to you and then let it get back. Other things, remember to silence your phone. Remember to, again, negotiate with others for quiet. Keep your cat out. As I said, I'm a cat person. I have to make sure my cats are out of the room. And so with this, I'd like to send it back to Shona for the last couple of words on your action plan, which we started earlier.
Excellent. So what workshop would be complete without some homework? But you know what? I'm thinking, I'm feeling the energy. I think you guys are off to a good start. So let's use what you've already started. You did a little practice with networking and you saw how it can be fun. And I want updates on the book club, by the way. You started to make a list about people that you already know, and you're going to be amazed. Keep adding to it. You'll be absolutely amazed. Whatchamacallit? You also want to have some tips and tricks in your back pocket with how to have conversations, how to start conversations. And I'm going to tell you, practice, practice, practice. Even though I've done my fair share of networking, I still, will take a little bit of time to prep before I go into a situation and think, who am I meeting with? What kind of interesting conversations or things that I could use to start, hopefully, in first interesting conversations. We have a great link. It's done by one of our staff. Some of you may know Derek Smith. And he does a great presentation. It is about half an hour, but it's absolutely worth watching. And he talks about how to start those conversations and make some great connections if you have the opportunity to meet at a networking event. But I will say networking isn't just constrained to formal opportunities. Remember, every conversation is a chance to network. So it's a great thing to keep in the back of your mind. Make those connections and you'd be amazed how many doors start to open. Jen, is there anything that you wanted to share on that as well?
I'm just going to say, just to remember that most people, even if they're, they're not going to turn into your best friend, most people, even quiet folks, who might identify as more introverted, are happy to meet somebody new. And so I'd encourage you to assume that something, at least is going to go okay. And may actually go very well when you're reaching out to talk with someone new. Now, that being said, should you expect 100% success? No, I wish we'd all have 100% success in life at everything, but that's not going to happen. So cut yourself some slack, okay? If the first few conversations feel awkward, it takes practice. And honestly, through the pandemic, I think we've all forgotten how to talk to strangers. I know I certainly have forgotten, some of the art of small talk and so on. So cut yourself some slack, but give it a try. And I will say, these employers that Adrian has lined up who want to connect with you are a really great opportunity to warm back up to the process of meeting new people. They're looking for students like yourselves. And so I think there's a good chance to be optimistic about how those conversations are going to go. Adrian, is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap this session? Oh, looks like a message in the chat box. Okay, go ahead.
I think you covered it all. I just threw a message in the chat box there. If anybody wanted to practice networking, feel free. I'm a safe person to connect with, and you can tailor your message on there. And I hope to see a bunch of you at our upcoming networking nights. If you have any questions about them, you can also ask me about any particulars of those networking nights after you connect with me on LinkedIn. So feel free.
Thanks so much for joining us, folks. Take good care.
Thank you. Don't forget to use the AA and CC resources.